Hello folks, we are going to talk about chapter 4. Those are financial ratios, and then we will go through DuPont equations, effects of improving ratios, and limitation of ratios, and some issues with the ratios. So these ratios following from chapter 2 is again to know the health of the company. And there are 5 areas that we are going to look at, and these ratios will come from different parts of the balance sheet, as you can see. And then the income statement will also provide that with the return ratio, return on asset, return on equity, and so forth. So the ratios, the best thing to understand is this: there are 5 areas of the firm that we look at. One is the liquidity. Is there a threat of immediate bankruptcy? Asset management is about the efficiency of the firm, and the debt management is the riskiness of the firm, and profitability is the lifeblood of the firm, and market value is the peer comparisons. So if you see that all those areas are okay, then that means the firm's health is okay. So and how do you calculate those ratios? And the first thing that we do about the liquidity is current ratio, and the current ratio and the quick ratio. The difference between the two is one is the current asset over current liability, other takes away inventories. And so we know that this inventories, you have seen firms around that who is having bankruptcy threat, and they sell their inventories in a hurry. This is called fire sale. And so people think that, well, this is not a good thing to rely on, so you take that out, and that will make the quick ratio better indicator of liquidity. So you want both of them to be high. So if you compare them, the current ratio with industry, this is the industry indicator. In all cases, you can see that current ratio is falling below the industry, and then liquidity position is weak. And then you go to the next level, which is the industry efficiency. Inventory turnover is that, are you keeping too much inventory or very much old inventory? And if you compare them with the industry is 6.10, and all of them, your company is DeLeon's company is below, so therefore it is not efficient. And then we go to DSO. That means how fast you are receiving the cash from your sale. So days sales outstanding is receivables over average sales per day. So you want these ratios to be low. And in this case, if you compare them with the industry, if they are high, therefore you say it has a very poor credit policy. And then we go to another efficiency ratio, which is fixed asset turnover, and the other is total asset turnover. And if we compare them, we see that, well, this is too much high, this is high, and this is the industry is lower. And so in this case, fixed asset turnover is going to is higher than industry, and total asset turnover below the industry. So we see that, well, it's lower the better. And then that has a mixed thing. And then the next set of asset ratios are basically riskiness indicators. And times interest earned is EBIT over interest, and EBIT is basic earning power. So we see that, well, you have to pay interest and your earnings is 7 times as much. So we look at compared to the industry, this is better because we have higher 7 times as much, and in industry is 6.2. So they are good. And then on the other hand, so times interest earned is higher the better. And on the other hand, the debt to asset ratio is lower the better. So in both cases, that industry, it is lower and therefore it is better. And then debt to total, therefore we say the riskiness of the company in this case is doing better indicators. And then comes the profitability ratios, which are, as I said, this is operating margin. That means you take EBIT, and then profit margin, you take net income, and then if you have basic earning power, which is EBIT over total asset. So we look at all of those and say, so these are all numbers that should be higher the better, and this is a mixed kind of information. So the operating margin was bad in 2018, and it is still remaining below the industry. Profit margin bad in 2018 and looking better now. Basic earning power is EBIT over total asset, and it removes the effects of taxes and financial leverage. So EBIT, I and TR is still there. So this is going to improve. And then ROA, ROE, and ROIC. So you see that in all these cases, this is return on asset is this over total asset, and ROE is net income over total common equity, and ROIC is this is called NOPAT. This part is called NOPAT, and this NOPAT over total invested capital. And so we look at this now and compare industry-wise. ROA is lower than industry, ROE is lower than industry, ROIC is lower than industry. So we see that, well, more improvement is needed for this company, because in all cases, all the return ratios are lower than the industry. So we see that you can window dress ROA and ROE. And how do you window dress? We are going to come to that. It's called DuPont ratio. So now you compare with the market, but we are going to come back to those ratios, this ROE, since people look at ROE and ROA, and stock prices might go up when you have that position. But people think that this is important to show the world that you have high ROE, and DuPont equation tells you that this you can do it not by fundamentally, but also by window dressing. But first, let us compare with the market, how you are doing with peers. Price earning ratio is 12 times, and then market book ratio is 1.56. Market book ratio means book value per share is in the balance sheet, and market price is the market the market price is the market value. So if you look at this, that is 12 here, and industry is 12 here, price earning ratio, and this is 1.56 versus 2.4. In both cases, it is lower than the industry. So, and you can see that these market value ratios, that if price earning ratio means that, well, for $1 of earnings, increase in earnings, you're willing to pay 12. And the other part is that is how far you have come from book value ratio or historical value. So now this is price earning ratio is how much investors are willing to pay for $1 of earnings. Market book is how much investors are willing to pay for book value of equity. And the higher these numbers, the better it is. And then price earning and MB are high if the expected growth is high and risk is low. And so we can do another ratio, which is EV, and enterprise value, which is that market value of equity, market value of debt, and market value of claims. And these ratios, if you look at estimated value, is approximately 6, 18, and 17. So it is around the same number. And then we, as we were saying before, that you can window dress. So this profit margin time total asset turnover and equity multiplier, and these are the ratios. And you can see that equity multiplier can be any one of those three ratios. If they're increased, then your ROE is going to increase. And then you see total asset and equity can be increased by going for more debt. When you go for more debt, your equity will reduce and the ratio will go up. So as you take debt, more debt will increase, equity will decline, because debt plus equity is the firm's value. So as you have high debt, equity will decline, and therefore equity multiplier will go up. So you see, taking risk more and more, you can increase the value, return on equity. So this is not a good thing. On the other hand, if you increase profit margin, which is a good thing, and if you increase the efficiency, which is a good thing, these are the fundamental change in ROE. But equity multiplier is introducing more risk to the system. So this is called window dressing. And they calculate the ROE for different levels of ratios, and you see that industry-wise ROE is 18%, 18.2%. On the other hand, yours is 13%. So you are not doing too well. And there are limitations. That is, comparison with industry average is difficult, because nowadays conglomerate firm, that means a firm that deals with many different divisions. The comparison of which division with other is difficult, and the different operating and accounting practices can distort comparisons, and also sometimes it is hard to tell if a ratio is good or bad. And this the way that we say a company is better than others, we have to do further analysis. And other things are that it is seasonal factor that can distort ratios. Window dressing can distort ratios. Inflation can distort ratios. And people do not have to look at just industry average. It should be looking at higher levels of performance. And finally, I would like to say that, well, look at page 129. that captures all the ratios at a glance, and you can copy this for your exam. So hope this clarifies further, and we will basically go now to chapter 8, and that is the fundamental building block for corporate finance.